Ladies and gentlemen, Larry Bird.
Magic's just a great basketball player. He's the best I've ever seen, you know. Unbelievable. I don't know what to say.
Incredible playoff performance. I've never seen it before, and I had never seen it after. That wasn't Michael Jordan out there. It was God disguised as Michael Jordan.
He was my GOAT. That's how Larry Bird talks about picking his favorite basketball players. Not with hype, not with drama, just with the quiet confidence of a man who played against the greatest athletes in NBA history and knows exactly what it takes to be legendary. When Larry Bird speaks on greatness, he's not joining some debate on the internet. He's telling you the truth about what actually matters in basketball. His list of 7 favorite players reveals something profound about the game itself and about Bird. Larry Bird's perspective on basketball is fundamentally different from most people. He doesn't care about highlight reels or crossovers, or the number of fans who chant your name. Bird cares about one thing and one thing only: winning, the final score. That's the only stat that matters. Everything else is noise. When Bird picks his 7 favorite players, he's not picking the highest scorers or the flashiest athletes. He's picking the players who solved the puzzle of winning in ways that fascinated him. He's picking the players who made him better, who beat him, and who made him respect the game more deeply. The first name on Bird's list is Bill Russell. 11 championships in 13 seasons. 11. When you say that number to Larry Bird, he stops talking and just nods. Russell is what Bird calls the ultimate standard. The object of the game is to win. The player who won the most and did it most consistently belongs at the top. But that's not debatable to Bird. Russell won those championships while helping everyone around him without hurting anyone. That's political ability. That's leadership. Bird understood that in a team sport, managing egos and distributing credit matters as much as the plays you make on the court. Russell did both perfectly. Russell dominated without ever needing to score. He could grab 25 rebounds, block 8 shots, score 6 points, and still win the game. That's discipline, and that's the opposite of empty stats. In Bird's era and in the modern era, there are players who score 30 points in a losing effort. Bird views that as failure. Russell never lost sight of what mattered, and Bird never stopped chasing his ghost. Russell set the standard so high that every Celtic who came after him was chasing a legend. Bird won 3 MVPs. Bird won 3 championships. But he knew he would never match Russell's 11 rings. That gap is cavernous. It's irrefutable. Russell is untouchable. The second name on Bird's list is Magic Johnson. And this one is different because Magic was Bird's mirror. They entered the league together in 1979, and they defined the 1980s. They came from a historic college championship game that saved professional basketball. Before Bird and Magic, the NBA was struggling. After them, it was a global phenomenon. Bird has said on the record that Magic Johnson was the best player he ever played against. Not Michael Jordan, not Kareem, Magic. This distinction matters because it reveals how Bird thinks. Bird felt he could engage in a chess match with Magic. With Jordan later, it was survival. With Magic, it was intellectual warfare. Magic could control every aspect of a game without being the primary scorer. That's basketball IQ. That's the extra pass. That's making your teammates better. In Magic, Bird saw a 6-foot 9-point guard who embodied everything Bird loved about the game. Magic didn't wake up thinking about scoring 40 points. He woke up thinking about creating 40 points for his team. Bird studied Magic's box scores every morning. When Magic had 20 points and 15 assists, Bird felt compelled to match it. This mutual obsession drove basketball for an entire decade. The Showtime Lakers were the opposite of the grit and grind Celtics. But Bird respected the engine of that team. He saw that Magic's no-look passes weren't flashy for flash. They were to manipulate the defense. Bird, who threw arguably the greatest touch passes in history, recognized the utility in Magic's flair. Bird and Magic were 2 sides of the same coin. Both were tall forwards with guard vision. Both were indifferent to their own scoring if it meant winning. Both won 3 MVPs. Both defined their franchises. Magic won 5 championships to Bird's 3, which only deepened Bird's respect. When Magic hit a baby skyhook in the 1987 finals, Bird said something that stuck with him forever. You expect to lose to the Lakers on a skyhook. You don't expect it to be from Magic Johnson. By picking Magic as a favorite, Bird was validating the point forward archetype. He was saying that basketball IQ is superior to athleticism. The third name is Michael Jordan, and this one comes from a specific moment that defines everything about Bird's respect for dominance. April 20th, 1986, Game 2 of the Eastern Conference first round, Boston Garden. The Celtics were arguably the greatest team ever assembled, 40-1 at home. The Chicago Bulls came in with a second-year player named Michael Jordan coming off a broken foot. He dropped 63 points. After the game, the Bird delivered one of the most famous quotes in sports history. "I think it's just God disguised as Michael Jordan." That quote is critical to understanding Bird's thinking. Bird was the king of the NBA in 1986. He was the MVP. He was the champion. For him to abdicate his throne to a sophomore required a performance that defied logic. Bird did not call Jordan great. He called him God. That means Jordan could do things that Bird, for all his genius, could not replicate. Bird initially viewed the young Jordan as a hotshot rookie. The Celtics swept the Bulls in 1986 and 1987. Bird and the Celtics physically beat up Jordan and stifled him with size and experience. But even during those sweeps, Bird maintained that Jordan was the most dominant individual force the league had ever seen. This is an important distinction. Best player means making teammates better. Most dominant means destroying an opponent single-handedly. Jordan was the latter. Over time, Bird's respect for Jordan deepened. He saw Jordan develop the mental toughness that Bird prized above all else. Jordan became a killer. Bird recognized that Jordan had matched him in mental fortitude and surpassed him in physical capability. Jordan also had a fear factor that Bird respected. Opponents would crumble before Jordan before the game even started. That's psychological warfare in Bird's view. The game is won mentally before it is played physically. Jordan's aura won games simply because opponents did not believe they could win. Bird saw this and understood it. Jordan represented hero ball dominance. Bird represented team-first basketball. By honoring Jordan, Bird bridges the gap between eras. He admits that while he loved the past, the dunk executed by God was undeniable. The fourth name is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. While the Bird-Magic rivalry dominated the headlines, Bird quietly held a terrified respect for Kareem. Bird has cited Kareem as the most difficult player to prepare for. The reason was singular and mechanical: the skyhook. Bird considered the skyhook to be the most unstoppable shot in the history of the game. As a defender, Bird was a master of anticipation. He could predict passing lanes, strip the ball, and take charges. But the skyhook broke the rules of engagement. Released at the apex of a 7'2" frame's full extension, it was mathematically impossible to block. Bird noted with a mix of awe and frustration that no matter what he threw at Kareem, Kareem would score 50 against him. For a control freak like Bird, Kareem represented chaos, a variable that could not be solved. In a revelation that often surprises casual fans, Bird has at times placed Kareem above both Jordan and Magic. Bird stated that without question and without hesitation, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was the best player he ever played against. Not just the best center, the best player, period. He was better than Magic, better than Michael. This is a staggering endorsement. Bird justifies this by pointing to Kareem's longevity and foundational impact. While Magic got the glory, Kareem was the foundational piece of the Lakers' success. The Lakers could survive a bad game from Magic. They could not survive without Kareem's 25 points. Bird valued the inevitability of Kareem. You knew what he was going to do, and you still couldn't stop it. Bird played 13 seasons, but his back betrayed him in the final years. Kareem played 20 seasons. Bird held a deep and jealous respect for Kareem's conditioning. He famously quipped that his left leg belongs in the Smithsonian. For Kareem to maintain his dominance into his late 30s and early 40s, winning Finals MVP at age 38, was to Bird a feat of discipline equal to Russell's 11 rings. Kareem represents the professional, the player who treated his body like a temple and his shot like a science. The fifth name is Wilt Chamberlain. Larry Bird is a student of history. While many modern players dismiss the pre-merger era as plumbers and firemen, Bird holds a fierce defensive stance regarding the legends of the 1960s. Among them, Wilt Chamberlain stands as the untouchable giant. Bird frequently cites Wilt when discussing the statistical limits of the sport. He has referred to Wilt's records as hilarious, not because they are funny, but because they are absurdly out of reach. The 100-point game, the 50.4 average in 1962, the 48.5 minutes per game average. Bird recognizes that these numbers represent a level of physical dominance that has never been seen since. "If I had to pick a guy," Bird stated, It would be Wilt Chamberlain because his records are hilarious and nobody will approach any of them. Bird sees himself as a bridge between the old school and the modern era. He views the dismissal of Wilt's achievements as an insult to the game itself. Bird appreciates that Wilt forced the league to change the rules just to make it harder for him. To Bird, if the league has to legislate against your dominance, you are automatically in the pantheon. Bird was not an elite athlete. He couldn't jump high or run fast. Wilt was a track star, a volleyball champion, and the strongest man in the NBA. Bird's admiration for Wilt is the admiration of the grounded man for the flying man, a statistical anomaly, a glitch in the matrix of basketball reality. The sixth name is LeBron James. The inclusion of LeBron in Bird's list is fascinating because LeBron represents the era that arguably displaced Bird's own. LeBron is a 6'9" forward who dominates the ball, a supersized version of Bird himself. Despite the generational gap, Bird has been a vocal defender of LeBron. Bird specifically appreciates LeBron's passing ability and basketball IQ. He has stated that LeBron plays the game the right way. This is the highest compliment in Bird's lexicon. Playing the right way means making the correct basketball decision regardless of ego. If the defense collapses, pass the ball. If the lane opens, drive. LeBron, like Bird, is often criticized for passing to teammates in clutch situations instead of forcing a shot. Bird defends this trait because it is the mathematically correct way to play. Perhaps the most revealing insight into Bird's psyche comes from his comparison of LeBron to Bill Walton. Bird was asked who he would want to play with. He replied that if he wanted to have fun, he would play with LeBron. That would be like playing with Bill Walton in 1986. For Bird, 1986 was the most fun he ever had playing basketball. Why? Because Walton was a big man who could pass. The ball moved. There was no dribbling the air out of the ball. It was cut, pass, score. Bird sees LeBron as the ultimate facilitator, a player who generates flow. This quote reveals that deep down, Bird is an artist. He loves the beauty of the game. He sees LeBron not as a rival, but as a creator of the basketball symphony that Bird cherished most. Bird also dismisses the old head critique that LeBron wouldn't survive in the 80s. He has stated that LeBron is a freak and he'd be just as good in any era. Bird recognizes that 6'8", 260 pounds, with point guard vision translates to any decade. By embracing LeBron, Bird shows that his criteria for greatness is adaptable. The seventh and final name is Kobe Bryant. If LeBron James represents the fun side of Larry Bird, Kobe Bryant represents the winning side. In the same breath that he praised LeBron, Bird drew a sharp line in the sand. But if you want to win and win and win, it's Kobe. Bird famously chose Kobe Bryant as the teammate he would pick if he needed to win a game. This selection is rooted in Kobe's assassin mentality. Bird saw in Kobe the same relentless, borderline psychotic desire to win that Bird himself possessed. Bird was known to dive for loose balls in preseason games. Kobe was known to play through broken fingers and torn Achilles tendons. Bird praised Kobe as one of the toughest human beings he has ever seen. Bird noted that Kobe played way more minutes than Bird, and finally figured out that he would get hurt and just play through it. That's the mentality of a great player. This quote is personal for Bird. Bird's career was cut short because his back collapsed. He spent his final years in excruciating pain. He sees Kobe's ability to endure pain and continue performing at an elite level as a virtue that transcends skill. To Bird, toughness is a skill, and Kobe was the grandmaster. Kobe Bryant revered Larry Bird. He called Bird a staple of a blue-collar player and modeled his work ethic after him. Bird's validation of Kobe was seen as the ultimate badge of honor. Now here's what makes Bird's list remarkable. Every single player on it is a multiple-time champion. Russell won 11, Magic won 5, Jordan won 6, Kareem won 6, Wilt won 2, but with untouchable dominance. LeBron won 4. Kobe won 5. Not one player was a pure scorer who didn't win. Not one. This reinforces everything Bird believes. The only stat that matters is winning. That's the through line of his entire philosophy. Each of these players represents something specific in Bird's mind. Russell is the brain, the ultimate winner, the leader, the defensive genius. Magic is the eyes, the visionary, the controller. Jordan is the aura, the god, the intimidation. Kareem is the arm, the unstoppable technical weapon. Wilt is the body, the physical anomaly, the statistical giant. LeBron is the heart, the joy of the game, the flow. Kobe is the gut, the toughness, the grit, the refusal to lose. Ultimately, Larry Bird's list is a projection of his own identity. He identifies with the IQ of Russell and Magic. He identifies with the toughness of Kobe. He identifies with the passing of LeBron. He admires the athleticism of Jordan, Wilt, and Kareem because it was the one thing he lacked.